In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with Tre Tailor. Coping. I'm Tre Tailor, and the Autistic Pride Day was first celebrated in 2005 by Auspice for Freedom. AFF is a group that raises public awareness about autism and autistic rights. And they show that autism is not a disability, but in fact, has many advantages. The June 18th date was selected because it was the birthday of the youngest member of the group at that time. Amanda Cruell Anderson is a special education teaching assistant and mom of autistic children. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell us about your children. Here's a beautiful picture of your family. Tell us about your children.
Yes, well, my husband and I, my husband Quincy, we're the proud parents of 3 children, a set of twins, a girl, Jordan, that has the glasses on in the picture, and a son, Quentin, and then our youngest, Amaya, who's in her graduation robes from last year. Quentin was born second, and he has autism, and Amaya, who was born 18 months after them, have autism, but Jordan does not have autism.
Right, right. Is there autism in you or your husband's family that you know of?
When my children were born, out of my cousins, there was no one before me that had anything related to autism. We had some cerebral palsy, but nothing with autism. After me, I have 2 cousins on my mother's side that both have sons with autism.
Really, really?
Yes.
So when did you find out your babies were autistic?
Well, Quentin, typically you start seeing it like 18 months old, and that's when I saw it in him. He went from hitting all of his milestones. He was born second, but he did everything first, other than his twin sister. He walked, crawled, toddled, had baby babble. He hit all his milestones first, and Jordan was not, she wasn't doing those things first. He did everything first, but about 18 months old, he started to stare at ceiling fans and cry, where he didn't do that, and his language sort of stopped. And
really? Wow.
he didn't want to eat more solid food, the transition to more solid table food. He didn't want to do that. He seemed to be sensitive to light and sound. He would cover his ears, and it definitely was notable. And I went to the doctor many, many times and was dismissed because they were comparing him to his, they were comparing him to his twin sister, who, well, girls develop faster and you can't compare it to his twin. And I'm like, well, he's doing everything first, so that doesn't make sense.
Right.
And
right.
The doctor also told me that he was jealous of the new baby that had came home when he was 18 months old. So he was regressing because of the attention that the new baby was getting. So it was really a struggle to get him diagnosed. He wasn't officially diagnosed until he was 4.5.
Oh my goodness. But he started showing symptoms that you saw
at 18 months.
Wow.
And I took him to the doctor, and they were like, oh, you're a new mom, you can't compare him to, boys develop, slower, and just basically dismissing what was obvious to me. And even in some respects, other people telling me, well, his father didn't speak, wow. On time and things like that. You had cousins that, were delayed, but it just was a nagging sensation in me that I knew something was wrong. And
with your baby, it's your mother instinct.
it just really nagged me. And you don't want to give in to fear or say something is wrong with the child, but there was obviously something going on. He would prefer to put rocks in his mouth versus food. So that was, he would spin and flap his arms, things that are really telltale signs of autism that I didn't really even know about. Didn't really know about. And finally, about 3.5 is when the doctor was like, your son, another doctor that I took him to had said, your son has autism. And, and I miss critical time because early intervention is so key in getting the help. And Quentin is 22 now. He's still nonverbal versus his sister, who she was 6 months old. And I was like, nope. she's crying, she's having a lot of issues with
Yeah.
her early intervention. She speaks, she's high functioning. And I mean, it's really like night and day.
Yeah. And you feel like that piece of time, 3 years, really, for almost 4 years, was critical in recognizing and diagnosing what those babies had so that they could do something about it.
Absolutely. It is one of my greatest regrets that I didn't just
Don't do
immediately
it,
go to
girl.
another
Don't do
doctor.
it.
I know. I made my peace with it.
Okay.
I really encourage parents, don't ignore the signs. Don't
Right.
ignore the signs. And I mean, it just, I'm blessed because they are healthy, wonderful kids, I say, but they're adults now. But it was definitely a struggle trying to get help for him at the beginning. And this was like 2003.
Yeah. Are you still there? Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, I love that you say, parents, advocate for your children, follow your instincts, because what you're saying is basically, if you get a no, go someplace else.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You're not being worrisome if you notice such a stark change in your child's behavior. I mean, he was the most unproblematic of the three children. And all of a sudden he was weepy. He would cover his ears, and, it seemed like sound was just so hard for him. And, I really knew something was very wrong. I'm happy that eventually we did get a great pediatrician, a great developmental pediatrician, to really get the ball rolling, especially for him and Amaya. And I really feel like it makes the difference. I can't stress enough. Early intervention is key. Don't ignore the signs.
Right. We've got a graphic here about autism, and it says it's a serious developmental disorder that impairs the ability to communicate and interact. Common symptoms. You tell me if you saw this. Difficulty with communicating, difficulty with social interaction, obsessive interests, repetitive behaviors. And it says here, early diagnosis and treatment can help, and it's key, but it says autism can't be cured. Autism may be chronic, and it can last for years or for a lifetime. As you say, your daughter is doing so much better with it, you said, than your son because of the early intervention. Tell me, Amanda, what is it parenting an autistic child?
It is very challenging. I can say I'm very blessed because I decided from the beginning that regardless of their disability or ability, I was going to parent them.
Yeah.
Not for the way that I wanted the world to be, but for the way the world is.
Yeah.
That means that, I stress love, discipline, structure, routine. Love, discipline, structure, routine. I cannot say it enough. And I had everybody and the people that were in my village on the same page. Yeah. It was very difficult at the beginning. I spent many, many days in tears and questioning and asking the Lord why, not one, but two. And as easy as Quentin was, Amaya she was one of the roughest. Behavior wise, screaming, tantrums. She didn't want to eat anything. She didn't want to go to anybody, nobody to touch her except me. Whereas Quentin would walk off with anybody. He thought everybody loved him. Amaya was the total opposite. I would be at the school. Sometimes I remember one year I just put a chair outside her classroom to just try to manage the behaviors. And even as early as 3, the first neurologist we came in contact wanted to give her Prozac at 3 years old because of her anxiety. Because we could barely get her in a building. We couldn't bring her in the school. Stores. It was really, really hard. But I have to stress that with that love, discipline, structure, and routine, keeping them, holding them accountable for their behaviors, working with their behaviors, outside speech and occupational therapy, not just from school, because school does not provide enough for these children that they need. They need outside services outside of school. I think the pandemic kind of really highlighted that school is kind of really being looked at as the end all and be all. And
yeah,
if you have a special needs child, especially with autism, you need outside services. So just constantly seeking out the help, because at that time, I didn't know anybody else that had a child with autism. So it was all about researching, trying to find agencies, getting the help that they needed. And once I got a good schedule in place, worked hand in hand with each of my child's teachers, what happened at school, had a direct effect on what happened at home. If you didn't do what you were supposed to do at school, you didn't, I parent them for the way I wanted them to be able to function in the quote unquote normal world. Because I wanted them to be able to function, and they can go, I can take them anywhere, do anything. We've been on a cruise, something that when we were in the thick of the behaviors, we couldn't even picture going to a restaurant at one time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it was like the low steps. Can I take her in Walmart without her having her tantrum? I mean, we can do anything. And I know that's because with the help of my family that I have here, and just being consistent, and it's hard when you're in it. You can't even, you're so down, sad.
Yeah.
You can't really see it, because when you get diagnosed, you see all the dreams that you have for them kind of just evaporate. And then you have like some medical professionals that actually told me on the day of diagnosis for my son, this is the worst state to live in if your child has autism. Literally said that in the meeting. And I said, well, along with giving me the divorce rate, the divorce rate, if you have one child with autism, is, it's 80%. So I looked at my husband and I said, well, we have 160% chance of getting divorced because we have two. It just seemed in the early 2000s, there just wasn't enough support. And now parents are so blessed because there's so many more agencies. ABA therapy is provided, and it's just so many things. So I don't want parents to have a child with autism to be discouraged, because I'm telling you, you can do it. You get the help that you need, get a system in place, and you'll be able to see your way through it, and you just dream other dreams for them. It's definitely a process, but there is happiness in it. It definitely is.
Amanda Cruell Anderson joins us. It is Autism Pride Month, and we are talking about her journey as an educator and parent of two children with autism. So, Amanda, tell me about some of those resources for those folks, and this is a picture of her beautiful family. You mentioned that there are several resources. Can we talk a little bit about what some of those resources are, what you would suggest for parents of autistic children? And are there specific challenges for autism children of color?
Oh, absolutely. I'll talk about the services first. The first thing that I did after you find a doctor that's willing to listen to you, you have to have a developmental pediatrician. You need to, because one handles the child's health, the other handles the health and the disability. Get referrals for services through your doctor. They can refer you to outside speech agencies, outside occupational therapies. And I would also suggest agencies like Family Connection of South Carolina. They were very helpful for me in the beginning, especially with my daughter that didn't have autism, because she had two siblings that she couldn't really have that sibling bond or relationship with.
Right.
So that Family Connection put me in contact with a sibling group, a sibling support group.
Wow.
That helped her, and she was able to talk about her feelings, because it can be lonely. She doesn't have the relationship like I have with my sister and my brother. And a lot of people don't think about the child that doesn't have the disability.
That's right. But it affects the whole family.
It affects the whole family. I mean, but agencies like Family Connection, the Autism Society, I worked a lot with, and most of my kids were under the Richland Lexington Disabilities and Special Needs Board for care coordination services. And that helps you get on waivers and things that you need. For incontinence supplies, a lot of kids with autism aren't potty trained. It's very hard to potty train. So there are a lot of waivers and support things like that you can actually get on. So I would advise you to go look them up. Autism services. There are even more schools and now just for kids with autism that there were not when I first started this journey. So there are a lot of agencies, and also find a support group for moms, parents, to find other parents like you. It's a wealth of resources when you find a group of other people like you, because if you don't have a child with autism, you kind of really don't understand what it's really like in the trenches. But we do appreciate the support, though, and the encouragement from people that don't have kids with autism, obviously. But as far as having African-American children with autism, I definitely, as Quentin transitioned into manhood, one of my main concerns when he and I used to be in the car together, taking him to therapy, after school, I would drop the girls off. He and I would be in the car alone. Quentin likes to hold rubber snakes. He likes little squishy balls. So even though he looks like a man on the outside, he has a goatee, mustache, and he's sitting in the front seat with me. He looks like, I hate when people say this, but a normal, you can't tell anything.
Like
exactly.
Yeah.
He looks like, So with all the the police issues and things that were going on, I had a fear, actually, that what would happen if someone pulled me over, and Quentin cannot comply with those instructions that the police were giving. Quentin does this, he rocks. So what if the police officer thinks that he's hiding something or he's moving suspiciously? And it sent a fear in my heart that I never had before, until I looked at him and was like, oh gosh, you are a man.
Yeah.
You're my baby, and you still hold my hand in the store.
You're a black man. You're a black man.
But you're a black man.
Of everybody else, you're another black male.
Exactly. And it sent fear in my heart. And I did reach out to like the sheriff's department, and I contacted some lawmakers, and I was, trying to say, well, maybe, they could put something on my license tag or something on the tag of anybody that had him, that when they scan, because a bumper sticker is not going to do it. I don't think if you see autistic kid on board, they're going to pay attention to that. But I felt that if they scanned my license tag and it said it may be a person with autism that will not communicate, that they will approach with caution. And I went to the sheriff's department, and they were like, well, that's an issue for the DMV. And I went to the DMV, and the DMV was like, that's an issue for the sheriff's department. It was just, I never got any feedback on it, but it's still something that I obviously think about. What will I do if, something happens like that? And you don't want to think that something would ever happen like that, but in the current climate that we're in, it's a possibility. Yeah. And, so those are things that I think about, especially with our kids with autism, with communication issues. How will we deal with that? I mean, I have, he has ID, but he doesn't carry it. I carry his ID.
Right.
He has no concept of, I'm supposed to give this to the officer if he asks for it. What do I do? He could have a bracelet on. We had bracelets made for them, but the officer's not going to see the bracelet when he's in the car. It'll be too late then. So I'm still trying to hope that I get some feedback about that idea, because that would give me a peace of mind, and it could be transferable to my mother-in-law, my sister, anybody that has him or that transports. Now Maya will respond, but I don't think she would still not be able to understand a lot of those commands. So I think in this current climate, it's definitely been something on my mind. And they haven't been out that much because of the pandemic, which is another thing, but eventually we'll get back to going out and things like that. And so it's definitely something that crosses my mind. It's definitely different. I mean, even though autism affects all social, economical, racist, everything, that's something that I feel like I have to worry about more than others.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point, Amanda, that you make. And I do think that might be a legislative thing. I think it's a legislative issue, and I would love to maybe help you get that in front of, the right legislators. Have you gone that route at all?
Yes, I did email some, and I didn't hear anything back. And then, life goes on, and then COVID happened, and I was just like, but I definitely would like to really help, get that forward, because it would be a great weight off my mind, and even if, God forbid, if something happened to me, or, anybody that was transporting them, if they could read the tag, okay, this child has needs, I just really feel like it would give a lot of parents a peace of mind.
Yeah. We're talking to Amanda Cruell Anderson. She is the mother of two beautiful autistic children, a boy and a girl, twins. You can see a picture of her beautiful family there. We have a question, Amanda. How is it working from home with the children? Have you experienced any type of challenges?
Well, they're quiet now because I tell them to be quiet. But when I work for, I'm in an elementary school classroom, an autism class, or an SSP class, as it's
Okay.
called. And we were home during the pandemic and there was a lot of autism noises going on in the background while I was home. I'm like, mommy's working. Please don't, mommy's working. Shh, be quiet. So it definitely was a challenge. It definitely was a challenge. And it was also a challenge for them to be home because they had that school schedule, and that's a big transitional
Consistency,
issue.
yeah.
Consistency. For Quentin, he was happy. He was like, wow, you're not making me get up and go to school. That's great. With Amaya, she loved school, so much, and she loved the interaction, the socialization. So it's definitely been hard for her because we had to alter our plans not to send them to an adult day service because of COVID. I just was not comfortable sending them, so they've been home, and it's been hard on her. It's been a challenge, missing church and just the normal things that we've done. It definitely, there was some sadness in her about missing a lot of those things. And how can you explain a pandemic?
Yeah.
You really can't. We don't really understand it, so it's kind of difficult. So it's definitely been hard. Eventually, I hope to be able to get them into something where they can go back and, have some time out, but I'm not able to get them the COVID shot right now because I'm not their legal guardian. Another whole thing.
Which is what I want to talk about. But before we get to that, I want to ask, so right now you're working inside the home. What about when you were working outside the home? What happens with the kids then?
Well, my daughter, the twins, one twin does not have autism. Amaya is not his twin. She's the baby of the family. His twin sister was home doing college classes online. So she was home helping me out tremendously with them. So they didn't really have to go anywhere. They were, while I was at school, she was here with them because, they're 22 and 20. So she was here. My husband didn't go to work until it was almost time for me to come home because he works at the hospital. So
okay, good. So you guys were able to coordinate your schedules.
Yes, our schedules. Yes, well, he goes in kind of when I'm about to leave work, and comes home. So it worked out, thankfully, for us. Obviously, Jordan won't be here that much longer because she's finishing up school, and I'll have to reevaluate what I do as far as with Quentin and Amaya. But yeah, it definitely, COVID definitely was, just kind of threw a monkey wrench in a lot of our plans that we had for them.
Yeah. Now you mentioned a little bit that, the kids are now adults. They can't legally or developmentally sign or get their own COVID test. You've got to do it. So now that throws in the situation of you and your husband trying to get legal guardianship of your two adult autistic children. Tell me about that process.
That's another thing I would really like to have a nice little talk with some legislators about. Right now, we're in the process of guardianship for our two adult children with autism, because once they turn 18, we basically are no longer their legal guardian. They've always lived with us. We brought them home from the hospital. They've never not been in our care, but it's almost like adopting them. We have to have background checks on ourselves. We had to find attorneys that luckily are doing it for us pro bono, because it is very expensive to have, and we have to do it in duplicate. Everything we do for Amaya, we have to do for Quentin. And when they were 18, they were still in high school. We were still covered with the IDEA Act. We were able to sit in IEPs. They had the same pediatrician. There were no real changes that warranted guardianship, because they want you to actually wait until you kind of start having some issues, which is not really a good thing to do. All parents, please start it at 18. Don't wait. And so basically that's what we have to do. We had to petition the court. They got served the other day and we're waiting on a hearing. Someone has to come visit the house that they've always lived in.
Right.
It just, the irony of it is that, you know, when you leave the hospital with these precious babies, they just tell you good luck. You know, they don't come to a home
Here's
visit.
the thing, girl. They shouldn't. They should do more check. Not with you.
Yeah.
But there should be more checking of who can get to keep their babies.
Absolutely. I mean, I was like, they say, do you have car seats? Okay, good. Good luck to you with these twins. And then the next 18 months later, good luck with this baby. But, you know, now that they're adults, you want to come and see their home. You want to do a background check on my husband and I. And I mean, it's just a lot of people, most people do not have the money to do this.
Right.
And you can try and save, but like with autism, there are expenses that just, you know, over time. And I wasn't able to work. My husband was the only one working at the time because we had two. Right. So it was very difficult. So right now we're in the guardianship process. So even something as simple as a COVID shot, wow. I can't take them to get a COVID shot because Quentin can't speak. And Amaya would literally probably sign her life away. She would just, yay, you know, I write my name. I like to write. So she would just write her name on the paper. So those are the issues that we are dealing with now. Wow. And it's just amazing that you never really think about that kind of stuff until
you don't. Until you have to. You don't think about it until you have to. Yeah, Amanda Cruell Anderson joins us. She has been telling us about her journey with two autistic children. She's been giving us some amazing information, insight, and she has a beautiful family. And Amanda, before we go, I want to talk a little bit about, and I'm sure you know about Toni Braxton's child, Chilch, you know, her son Diesel, and she's been very vocal about his autism diagnosis. And a couple of years back, she said he was cured or he was no longer autistic. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. Not only her, who I love, Toni Braxton, absolutely. Jenny McCarthy also has a son,
right,
with autism. Well, and I have heard that they said that they can be cured. What I would say to that is, if you are able to afford the intensive therapy, the special diet that they think plays a part in a lot of that things, I think the more resources that you have, the better chance your child has of not seeming like he has autism anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I hear you. Mm-hmm.
I think that if, you know, we had the money and the resources to have these intensive therapies, you can get to a level of function where it does not look like you have autism. I don't really, you know, my personal opinion is that, you know, if they feel that they're cured, then, you know, but I think that you can still really see, if you're an autism mom, I can definitely see autism still present. But
they may be on a different form of the spectrum. They may.
Yes, because it's definitely a spectrum. Quentin is considered severe because he's nonverbal. He had some like issues with motor function and things like that. Amaya, you know, she can speak and she'll answer you, but she's not a conversational speech person.
Yeah.
Like she won't, you know, you have to prompt her with conversation, but she can tell you anything you want. So, you know, if you've seen one kid with autism, they say you've seen one kid. It's so vast. There's so many different levels and degrees of it that you might speak to people every day and don't know they have autism.
Right.
Because that's just how good they are able to function and things like that. So, you know, I'm always happy when I see people like that. And it does make me wish that I had the resources, you know, that I had at the beginning to really that intensive therapy to get them to the point where they could live on their own. They will live with me and I don't have any problem with that. I mean, because, you know, they're my babies.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, they, you know, definitely, I think that your resources really can kind of help. It gives your child a better odds, I would say.
Yeah. Amanda Cruell Anderson, thank you so much just for sharing your story, for your transparency, for working. I mean, just for taking the initiative to do what you need to do for your children. Listen, like you said, we get these children and we don't know what we got. And then we just gotta, you know, just like our mamas and daddies didn't know what they had with us, girl.
Absolutely.
So we just have to, you know, do the best we can for our children. I know there are several websites. There's the Autistic Society website, and then there's Autism Speaks. So if people want more information, they certainly, can visit those two websites. And then you gave some great information and some great resources for people who are navigating the right decisions for their children. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And good luck. God bless. And let's connect, because I want to help you, if I can, with kind of reaching out to some legislators to, to help the process. Because listen, you're one parent that's expressing this. There are millions more that have similar story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate any help you could give. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Computers, they're a part of our everyday life. But when they're not working, they're an everyday problem. So call Computers Unique, your everyday solution. 803-351-5821. Is your computer running slow? Won't turn on? Do you need a screen replaced? Or maybe you just need another computer? Well, Computers Unique is your one-stop shop for all your computer needs. They have a wide variety of new and pre-owned PCs, Macs, and tablets. So call Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. 803-351-5821. 803-351-5821.
So listen, if you have a story or initiative that could help someone cope, please email booking@copingwithtretatailor.com. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope, email copingwithtretatailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC, Javis Financial Services, Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, the Comet Bus System, and also Black Pages Black Expo. Today's devotion says, when something in your life or thoughts make you anxious, come to me and talk to me. Thank you, Jesus, for this opportunity to trust you more. That's what we should say. Though the lessons of trust that I send you come wrapped with difficulties, the benefits far outweigh the cost. Well-developed trust will bring you many blessings, not the least of which is my peace. I have promised to keep you in perfect peace to the extent that you trust in me. The world has it backwards, teaching that peace is the result of having enough money, possessions, insurance, security systems. But my peace, God says, is such an all-encompassing gift that it's independent of all circumstances. Though you lose everything else, if you gain my peace, you are rich indeed. That's your devotional for today.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, learning the way that we thrive all together. Coping, finding out what's real. Coping, we can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress. Coping with stress. Beyond hoping to do more than survive, be alive.